Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. My name is Debbie Sell from the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that we connect with many communities across our vast regional district, and today we're located on Tecumseh's Secwepemc territory. We are situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. We appreciate the partnership that we have and respect the territory and land on which we gather today. So today it'll be a fairly short update. We have the Thompson-Nicola Regional District here to talk about orders, alerts, as well as the animal operation occurring in Lytton this afternoon, as well as the resident tour tomorrow. We also have people with us from BC Wildfire to give us some up-to-date information on what's occurring with the fires. So what I'll do at this point is I'm going to pass it to our colleagues in BC Wildfire to give us an overview of the fires within the regional district right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Drysdale, and I'm at the Sparks Lake Fire. What I can tell you is that we had 3 mils of rain overall, a large portion of the fire, which was very good for our folks out on our crews on the fire line. We understand a number of people were concerned about the wind that came in, but the wind came in at the same time as the rain, so it negated any effects of the wind, so that was good. The Deadman Vedette drainage in the southwest remains most active part of the fire, and especially during the late afternoon. Variable winds are always a challenge in that area, and they continue to be so. Our crews got some fairly good guard in there, and they are now looking at starting to build some contingency lines. So crews today are going to be establishing the guard on what they call the steam shovel from Savison Creek to Sedge Lake to action the eastern edge of the southwest section. The goal on the western edge of this section is to keep the fire on the east side of the Deadman River with small planned ignitions to reduce fuel loads. The Northern Division is something that we are developing now. We have equipment and crews on the northern flank of this fire. They are developing plans to deal with building some guard. They do have equipment up there. They are working on the northwest flank. They are going to run equipment. Some equipment is going north to south, the other in the opposite direction, and they are going to continue to build guard on that side. We also have assigned to us 4 fires on the northern part of this fire, which include 3 caribou fires and 1 that is to the northeast of us, which is another Kamloops fire. And they are including those in the plans along with what else is going on at the northern flank. So all in all, I would say things went fairly well yesterday on the fire line. Crews got some really good work in. The relative humidities were fairly high today. So again, they've had a very good day on the fire line so far.
Thank you very much for that update. And next.
Hey, I can go next. It's Forrest Tower. I'm the information officer for Lytton Complex. So our main fire we're focusing on right now is the Lytton Creek wildfire, but also included in our complex is the George Road fire. So I won't go into too many, details about crews and whatever. The wildfire of note page is and always will be the good source for all of those details. I'll just kind of give a high level overview of what fire activity we've been experiencing mainly yesterday. So throughout most of the fire along Highway 12 and Highway 1, there wasn't much high intensity fire activity, except for upslope of the Gladwin area. So our crews have been successful in establishing sort of 50 feet of wet lines. So they have a hose lay. It's pretty much extinguished from 50 feet into the fire's perimeter where the fire came down the slope near Gladwin. So that's all looking really good in and around those structures there. Upslope, however, near the top of that area, yesterday with winds, there was some quite high fire activity, and we actually pulled our crews from the area in the evening. It was exhibiting unsafe behavior for our crews to be in. So we pulled our crews, monitored it with our air resources, and they're back in there this morning. So it did burn a couple hundred of hectares upslope, kind of over into the next valley. There's an existing cut block there. And so what the crews are doing today, they're all back in there. The fire is like I said, a bit of growth, but it is safe to be in there now. So they've established a hose lay up into that area, and so they're able to action that. And they're also being supported by equipment. So they're tying into an existing FSR. I'm not sure if this is the right title, but it's just east of the Gladwin park there. So there's, I think it's a Gladwin FSR essentially that goes up into that cut block. They're using that and tying in to the cut block, that FSR, and to get around it. So our ops team is fairly confident that they'll be able to hold that now. We're not seeing the same sort of weather, but on this fire, especially in the afternoons, the winds are consistently picking up. And with the weather we're seeing just north of us with thunderstorms, et cetera, we're kind of just on the edge of that. And so that really is quite challenging in the evening for our air resources and crews to deal with. We've had to ground our fleet a couple of days ago just with how high the winds are. So that's kind of the main area of focus right now, and really the only high fire activity that we're noticing. On the west side of the Fraser, we do have a bunch of new personnel in there. There's a 100-foot wet line around that entire excursion. And so 100 feet from the edge into the perimeter is extinguished. And we have crews kind of just working to get all the way in there and all our hotspots out. So a new public perimeter map was just uploaded as well to the Wildfire of Note page. So if you're interested in kind of seeing where the fire is, you can look at that. But I'll just say that the number one kind of resource for where the fire is the BCWS interactive dashboard. As soon as we get our GPS tracks in, that gets sent to our team, our GIS team that does mapping, and they upload that as soon as possible. So really the most up-to-date source that for public information is going to be that dashboard. So if you are wanting to know kind of where fire movement is, definitely check that out along with the Wildfire of Note page. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions, my information is on that Wildfire of Note page as well. So you can reach out anytime with my cell number or email. Thanks.
Thank you, Forrest. Okay, and do we have another update from BC Wildfire Service?
Just a second. It's Noel from TNRD, or oh my gosh, from the Kamloops Fire Center. Sorry. Is Rosalie on from Makaya?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Rosalie, do you want to
Yes,
go next, and then I can finish up from the fire center?
Sure.
Okay.
Do you mind if I don't put my video on, because we've been having problems with the internet and I'm scared to get booted out? Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rosalie McCauley, and I'm the information officer working on the Makaya Creek fire. And so this afternoon, I'd like to provide you a brief update on behalf of Kyle. So the last few days, things have been looking good. We've had minimum fire growth, and this fire is currently mapped just over 25,000 hectares. With respect to what the crews have been doing in the last day, we've completed a critical planned ignitions in the southwest, and that's in the vicinity of Lee Creek. And that was a combination of aerial hand ignitions, and it was to remove some available fuels that was very important to increase the containment of our wildfire. And also in this area, to do more work, we're also looking at assessing what access is available for crews, so we can get more crews in that area. And another critical part for this wildfire is in the southeast, which is just above the community pavilion. So yesterday, crews conducted small-scale ignitions against some established guards in the area, and they also continue to mop up this area. So it's also looking good in that area.
So currently we are working on a machine guard that's going up the east flank northward. And there's also a guard towards the transmission lines just above the community. And we are planning to conduct another planned ignitions when conditions permit this burning. So as I mentioned, the southeast and southwest and in the vicinity of West Pavilion, the Clinton Pavilion, Forest Service Road, this is still a priority. We now have additional crews from Quebec. So today was the first day on the line, and we'll also start putting crews into the very northern end of our fire, which as of late has only been aviation resourced. So that's a good thing that we have some more crews to put in other areas. Another priority on this fire is ongoing danger tree assessments and danger tree falling. And that's in the Lee Creek area, the West Pavilion, and in the West Pavilion Road area. And this is very important for egress and regress reasons. And also to where we currently still have 2 evacuation orders in place, an evacuation alert. And these danger tree assessment and falling is also very important when we're reviewing whether or not to rescind the orders. So to make the area safe for folks to be able to get back in. And so with respect to weather, yesterday we did receive some precipitation on the wildfire, but it's still the available fuels out there are still very dry. We had to ground our helicopters early yesterday because of lightning, but right now we have 15 available helicopters to aid our crews in their containment efforts with this fire. Is there any questions?
Thank you for that update. We'll open it up for questions once all of BC Wildfire has had a chance to give an update, just in case a question is related to a different fire. So thank you very much for that update.
Okay, and then we'll wrap it up from the fire center. So the 2 that I'm going to give an update on is the Durand Lake fire. And it is, the good news is we have 100% machine guard around it. And it's being reinforced with wetline and the crews. So it is estimated around 280 hectares. We've got personnel on it, we've got heavy equipment, and we've got air support working the Durand fire. So it's just really nice to be able to say that we do have a machine guard around the entire perimeter. Napier Lake fire, it is, we do have crews on it with air support. We are working hard on getting some containment on that perimeter. It did reach homes yesterday. There is evacuation alerts in the area. And so that one is estimated at 56 hectares. So that's the report on those 2. Last night, we did receive, in the last 24 hours, we received 566 lightning strikes in the fire center. And that was only accompanied by trace amounts of precipitation. So we're keeping an eye on these new lightning strikes and seeing if there's going to be some holdovers and what will come from any of these new strikes with wind and the drying trend that is going to continue. Secondly, we are getting reports of drones back on our fires that are impeding operations from air operations. So please, if you own a drone and you're very curious about the fires, don't be. We cannot have you interrupting our fire operations. So please do not be using any of these this equipment in and around our fires. And the last is we're also getting media on our fires. With COVID restrictions that we're still adhering to, we are only doing interviews here at the fire center, and we're not doing any face-to-face interviews with any media on our incidents. So if you are inquiring and want to have an interview, you need to coordinate through the fire center and or the incident, and we'll make arrangements. Just do not show up at the incident, because once again, you are impeding our operations. So that's from the fire center.
Thank you very much. And I will open it up so that if we've got any questions that participants have for any of the panelists, if you'd like to enter those into the chat, we'll see if we can answer those before we let BC Wildfire get back to their critical work of fighting these fires. So just checking the chat. And not seeing anything come through. So again, I'll leave the chat open. If you think of something, we will attempt to get that information to you. So as I mentioned, I'm Debbie Sell from the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. The first thing I'll do is just very quickly talk about orders and alerts in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. And so what I'm sharing for you is the map of the regional district so that you can see at a glance all of the orders and alerts that we currently have active. The fires that BC Wildfire Service currently talk to us about are all showing on this map. Fortunately, we have not seen growth in any of the order and alert areas, so that is great news. We are regularly in contact with BC Wildfire, and as soon as it is safe to do so, we will be looking at the areas that are under order, and we understand that people are very anxious to get back, and when it is safe to do so, we do get those recommendations from BC Wildfire, and then we can communicate out any changes to these orders and alerts. We currently have 9 active orders in effect in the region, and we have 9 active alerts. So as I said, the real positive news right now is that we haven't had growth, particularly in the evacuation order areas. So that is really positive and a real testament to the hard work that BC Wildfire Service is doing out there in order to try to control the fires that are out there. So real appreciation out to that group. So we will be updating, as things change. So, please refer to this map if you'd like updated information on orders and alerts in our area. The other thing I want to give a quick update on is the animal operation that's occurring in the Lytton area. It's occurring as we speak. It started earlier or later this morning and is going through into this afternoon. And their SPCA is working with BC Wildfire and Lytton First Nation to coordinate that work to either care for animals or do an animal rescue for the animals that had to be left behind in that area. So that is ongoing today. And as well in the Lytton area, just an update, there is the tour that is occurring tomorrow for Lytton residents, and so we have a number of people that are registered for that tour. That will be occurring midday tomorrow for those residents that would like to go back and go through the area that has been damaged. So it's a very limited time that we can enter, and it'll be a very limited area that we're allowed to travel through, but we have arranged that. So if you have not already had a chance to do so, and you are impacted by that fire, please register with the TNRD Emergency Operations Center as soon as possible. As mentioned previously, we will be recording these sessions and posting them, as well as the contact information for the presenters that you have had as panelists today. So that information will be available to you, and anyone that has been unable to watch this session live will be able to go back and see the recording. So there's been a couple of questions that I can see before we wrap up. I see that there was a question of Botany Valley. I'm not sure if we still have somebody from BC Wildfire Service that can update on Botany Valley.
Yeah, hi, it's Forrest. I was just actually trying to type in the chat, but I don't think I can send my response, so I'll just verbalize it. Yeah, so in the Botany Valley, we have had crews and equipment in there, obviously, over the last couple of days. With the influx of resources that we have received over the last 2 days, we have now over 30 firefighters in and around the valley. And so they're working on just securing wetline like we've previously discussed. So from the fire perimeter, just extinguishing no hotspots or smokes from the perimeter within the fire. So they are making good progress up and down the valley. They're being assisted by our structure protection crews to kind of work in and around any structures. And then as well, they're available there if they are needed for structure protection. We have had equipment in there and they've kind of finished their tasks. So they were working off any existing roads where possible and just creating guard again around the fire perimeter to ensure that there's no new growth in that area. So it's looking good. There's low fire activity. We haven't had any real action there in the last couple of days, but it definitely is active wildfire suppression up and in that area. So in terms of, and I won't speak on behalf of the TNRD, but just from the wildfire suppression, in terms of people, looking when they can get back in there, it's still a really active site. We are being assisted by helicopters bucketing in that area, lots of trucks, crews, and everything moving around in there. So low fire activity, but lots of activity as we want to obviously make sure everything is 100% secure in and around roads and structures and keep the fire upslope. So yeah, that's a bit of an update. I'll leave it a bit short, but if you want anything more, definitely reach out to me by cell or email, and I can kind of go in more depth with you if you want. Thanks.
Thank you, Forrest. We've had a couple of questions about Durand Lake, and yes, this is an area that we are working actively with BC Wildfire on as well. We know that people are anxious to get back. It's great news, about the work that BC Wildfire has been doing on that area. Of course, it's, there's also access, egress, danger tree, that type of assessment that needs to be done by BC Wildfire. So we are working actively with them. And as soon as any areas have been deemed safe to be downgraded from order to alert, we will action those as quickly as possible. So just to let everybody know that, yes, we are actively watching the Durand Lake area to get people back as soon as we can. Had a question about Lytton evacuees, an update on the people and how many people might still be unaccounted for. And we have not recently had an update. Canadian Red Cross is actually coordinating that work on behalf of all of us, and they do have a reunification line. So we will post that information in this as well to get the word out, to remind everyone to please contact that reunification line if you haven't already done so. So there's work actively on that as well. So the question about which site is being updated, BC Wildfire or TNRD, there is a sharing of information on the two websites. So BC Wildfire you should be going to that site if you want to get specific information about the fires themselves. That's where you'll find the most current information about the fire status. Please go to the BC Wildfire status site. If you are looking at order and alert information, that's where you'll want to go to the TNRD site to get the most information, or the most current information, sorry, about orders and alerts. And that appears to be it for our questions. And I just, before I wrap up, I do want to put out a shout out to some local companies that have really stepped up for our Lytton evacuees. Tim Hortons has kindly donated coffee and donuts for the evacuees prior to them going on their tour. And the North Shore Safeway has also stepped up and donated lunch and an end of day food for over 200 people. So just wanted to really show appreciation for some of our local retail outlets here that have really stepped up to help our evacuees. So thank you very much for attending today. Oh, sorry, just one last thing that's come, which is a great piece of information. So quick update from Red Cross. Moving forward, Emergency Management BC is requesting that anyone who knows of a person that may have been in Lytton on June 30th and they have not been able to account for, please reach out to the RCMP. The RCMP can then take it from there regarding any kind of missing person report. So that's a great piece of information. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, thank you for your attendance. And as I mentioned, we will be placing a recording of this on our TNRD website. The next session, provided everything stays relatively calm, will not be for a few days, potentially in the weekend. So thank you very much, everyone, and stay safe.